Welcome to Global Perspectives. What are some of the challenges of organizing major hotel operations in other countries? For insights, we turn to Elizabeth Espinosa, who is with the Ritz-Carlton Shanghai Pudong in China.
Global Perspectives with Pulitzer Prize-winning commentator John Bercia.
Welcome to the show, Liz.
Thank you, John. Thank you for having me.
So you've come a long way, but you've also been in many, many other countries. So why don't we start with China and then work our way over to other places where you've had challenges in managing hotel operations?
You mean work my way back to Orlando?
We can do that.
I guess that's where it all started. But I'm currently in Shanghai, China, as you know, as the executive assistant manager of rooms for the Ritz-Carlton. And I've been there now 2.5 years. And very interesting trajectory there. Prior to China, I had the pleasure of working in the Middle East and in Dubai as part of an opening for the JW Marriott Marquis. Fantastic property, very large operation. And before that, I was with Loews Hotels here in Orlando. And that was kind of my first introduction to hotel operations, officially and formally. And prior to that, Tampa really is where I started in this industry as a restaurateur with my father. And of course had my exposure with Disney in between it all, and that's kind of what opened my eyes to going international.
Well, take us to the first week of your experience in China.
Oh.
What was it like? What went well? What didn't go so well, perhaps?
First week in China. Well, first of all, everyone was surprised. I got all of my personal belongings down to 3 boxes because this is now my second move international. In China, my first week, I never felt more alone because of language in my life. In the Middle East, you still have quite a few people speaking English, but I think it was the everyday interactions that really made you feel like, wow, I'm in a very different country. At the same time, the food was amazing, so I had a chance to be experimental, and because I was with the hotel, my transition was actually quite smooth. I was very fortunate for that and very grateful for what they did to help me get settled. But it's the simple things. How do I turn on the internet in China and in Chinese and my bank accounts, and how do I transfer money from the Middle East to home and et cetera. So it was a lot of that, trying to figure out how to now plug into a new life in a totally different country.
How did you work things out in terms of transportation? Shanghai is such a wonderfully user-friendly city, and you can walk everywhere, but it can also take a while to walk to certain places.
Oh, I love it. And one things I do not miss about being in the United States is driving, parking my car, looking for my keys. Because in Shanghai, you can walk everywhere. When I first moved to the city, I was living in Pudong. So where the hotel is located, it was literally about a 15-20 minute walk to work. And I love that. And that was great for me as someone by myself at the time and trying to manage my own way, getting comfortable in a new country. Then I've recently moved to the other side of the river, for those of you who are familiar with Shanghai, and I absolutely love it because everything is in walking distance. And they have a fantastic new bike sharing app, and the metro is so convenient, so cheap, taxis everywhere. So you really quickly learn survival Chinese when it comes to getting around, but more importantly, you really have this sense of freedom to just move on your feet and to be outside and to be aware of where you are.
When I was first at Pudong, it was mostly farming, and then they built the stock exchange and some high-rises and started to bring in hotels. But now it's just an amazing place. Give us a sense of what it's like to be there with all the things that have been built, including your hotel.
Okay. Well, Pudong, the city is separated by a river, the Huangpu River. So where Pudong is considered the financial district, as you know, with the stock exchange there. And so I would probably compare that to being in Manhattan, okay, in downtown Manhattan. And then you cross the river, and that's like going into the Chelsea neighborhoods or some Brooklyn neighborhoods, and you have that far more residential, cozy experience. You feel more connected with the culture, I would say, on the Puxi side. However, in Pudong, it's fantastic because it's one of the few places in the city where you have space. And this idea of space, whether it be horizontal or vertical. So in our hotel, for example, it's a high-rise. And every building around us is a high-rise. But at the same time, you can go downstairs and walk along the river, very wide avenues. And so you just have this appreciation for space, where in a city of 24 million people, it doesn't come often.
Tell us a little bit about your hotel. What I've always enjoyed about hotels in China is that they make an effort to offer amenities that are uniquely Chinese, but they also offer food, for example, that is inspired by countries in Europe and other things. And so it's a nice eclectic mix, and you can pretty much find whatever you like.
Yes, I think that's one of the great things about our company, our brand. Really, we want to give an authentic experience to our guests, to our customers. And at the Ritz-Carlton Shanghai Pudong, we have, as you know, the Sina restaurant, a fantastic Italian cuisine inspired by Tuscany, with the Tuscan chef in the kitchen. We have a fantastic chef, Chef Daniel Wong from Jin Chuan, which is our Cantonese restaurant, just won a Michelin star. Our Aura Lounge is our really where we're known for a famous afternoon tea, overseeing the entire view of the Bund. And upstairs in Flair is really the highlight for our hotel in the sense of the best terrace, the best view in the city of the entire skyline of Shanghai. And the food is phenomenal, with concepts infusing Asian-style tapas and a lot of Malaysian curries and really fantastic sushi and oysters as well.
Oh, I'm getting hungry.
Me too.
For those of our viewers who don't know about the Bund, could you just explain briefly what that is?
Yeah, sure. So the Bund, B-U-N-D, is essentially an embankment. So during the colonial time in Shanghai, this was the embankment along the river that separates the city, where we do have a lot of the first and established embassies, as well as banks and other foreign enterprises along that riverside. Now, in modern day Shanghai, it's become really a destination for architecture tourism, as well as nightlife and restaurants, and some of the best restaurants in Asia are located on that Bund. And so it's a beautiful view. Also, it gives you really a taste of that Art Deco and that focus on architecture that the city embodies. It's really a fantastic place.
Talk to us a bit about the food. You mentioned the Chinese restaurant within the hotel, and I have very fond memories of dumpling restaurants in Shanghai where you'd have literally 100 different options. And I don't think that's something the average viewer here probably has experienced unless he or she has been to China.
Well, two things here. One, dumplings. No other place better in the world than in Shanghai for xiaolongbao. Okay, amazing. And every time I come back or I leave China, it's the first thing I start missing are the dumplings and the food. It's so different. And what we know of as Chinese food here in the United States is totally different. It's night and day different. Of course, with Hong Kong influence, the dim sum is quite popular. But what you do start to see in China, especially with our hotels, is a lot of fusion between different styles of cooking, but also to a lot of creativity with the way the food is presented. But again, we have thousands of restaurants in Shanghai, and it's just a matter of going down the street and trying something new, or just asking someone for their favorite dumpling place or their favorite restaurant. So I think that as a guest in our hotel or a visitor to the city in general, there's such an exploration to be had just along the lines of dumplings, not to mention all the other food that's available in the city.
Oh, I would take up that challenge anytime.
Oh, okay.
I could,
Well,
I
we're
could
waiting
be
for
your
you.
official dumpling sampler.
Yes.
Tell us about the management challenges. I was reading somewhere that said that you personally manage close to 200 people,
Yes, yes.
which sounds huge by comparison to numbers we would typically see at a hotel here.
Well, I oversee the rooms division in the hotel, so that's a team of 181 people. And they're all Chinese with the exception of 3 or 4. And so for us, well, for me, I oversee the front of house operations, so everything that has to do with communicating with the guest and delivering the immediate service to the customer, but also the spa, the security in the hotel. So for me, it's been the most amazing and rewarding experience. From a leadership perspective, learning how to be in a totally new environment as the foreigner, with a team of very capable, very inspiring people. But then it was also quite different because before I was in the Middle East, and that team was also quite large, probably 40 people that were my immediate jurisdiction. So just so unique because we're talking about a culture that's very, very strong, has a very strong identity, has very clear rules about authority and hierarchy and how to communicate and how to demonstrate respect. And at the same time, we're working in a business with a lot of gray areas when it comes to giving service and a lot of flexibility that needs to be had. So this is where I have the most fun, the most challenge, but certainly the most fun, especially when you see it coming together.
Did you find from early on that there was the necessary respect and everything else that you would anticipate in such a setting, or did you have to work toward gaining people's trust and learning how to communicate more effectively, or maybe a combination of the two?
Definitely a combination of the two. I think that as an American, this idea that everyone is accessible, that you can communicate and there's this expectation that you will be respected immediately. This doesn't exist. And for me, that was probably the biggest, I guess, choking point, in the sense of I don't understand why I'm not immediately getting a response or why I'm not immediately respected. And then you have to take yourself back and you have to understand the culture and you have to do your homework and you have to build that trust with both your line employees, your subordinates, but also with your peers and also with your superiors. And that is a huge learning and something that I will take with me for the rest of my life, because you really have to learn how to humble and to say, okay, yes, I'm in my position because I've done X, Y, Z up until this point. But that doesn't change the fact that there is someone with far more experience and age and knowledge that I have to acknowledge and to give the due respect and to be receptive to what they have to show me. And I try to apply that principle to every level in my organization.
As you learned more Mandarin with the passage of time, did that help in terms of not just communicating?
Learn Mandarin? That was a survival Mandarin.
So survival Mandarin. People understand that it's a very complicated language, and it, what does it take, 7 years just to learn the basics? And but if you say a few words, people respond.
Sure, and I think what has really strengthened, because again, when I was in the Middle East, I didn't know Arabic, but what I know very well is people and context and facial expressions and tone. And when you can pick that up, and when you may not be able to respond in Mandarin, but still be able to give a response that's along the lines of what the conversation was, there's a sense of, she's understanding us, or she's making an effort. And that's so valuable. And I think oftentimes when, as foreigners working in other countries, even in our own country, we don't take the time to study the person or to give space to study the person, and you just assume that communication is so easy. But it's really about valuing the person as an entity and listening and really trying to empathize with what's being said, whether you understand the language or not.
Did you read anything that was especially helpful to sort of acclimate you to Chinese culture? Because to me, Chinese culture is as complicated as the language. It's yes. Very, very layered. There's so many ways of saying something yes. that means something a little bit different, and it takes years to get accustomed to all of that.
Yes, yes, yes. One book that was quite helpful for me was called by Henry Kissinger on China. Fantastic book, because what he did really well was talk about the history that led up to the Cultural Revolution, but then also how do those remnants of the ancient China still translate into modern day society as it becomes more open. Fascinating book. And I read that one second to one by Dr. Fukuyama called The Origins of Political Order. And that was before I even came to China. I read that when I was in Dubai, and I said, God, I had no idea about China, because he really gives a cross-cultural analysis and multidiscipline analysis about the origins of the state. And when you think about how China developed as a political entity, it's so relevant to what's happening even in modern-day China. So both of those books were quite informative, but also comforting to me, because it kind of said, okay, well, if you can understand that, then you have a better basis for being successful with the people that you communicate with on a daily basis.
I could hear Kissinger talking in my head about China as you said that. I met him only once and had a brief conversation with him in an elevator when he had first come to Georgetown after leaving government service. And I thought, well, this is amazing. Yeah. It was a short elevator ride, but he's written on so many topics, including China, with tremendous insight.
Tremendous, and it's a book that I continue to recommend and that I continue to use as a resource for my further study.
Mm-hmm. The first time I was in China, I was there for quite a bit of time, and I obviously had to have clothes cleaned from time to time. And so the first time I had shirts done in a Chinese hotel, they came back and I thought something had happened to my shirts, because these looked brand new and they were all folded beautifully and boxed and everything else, but they were just my shirts that had been taken care of in an extraordinary way, and I had never had that happen at a dry cleaner here. But talk to us about that level of attention to something as simple as a shirt.
Well, that's the biggest thing that I hear my guests say to me when they're traveling. The service that we receive in Asia is exceptional. It is the best. And you know, in the United States, in the West, we say, okay, well, we're the best. We're the customer's always right. We have the Walt Disneys of the world. We have the Marriotts of the world. But again, the one thing that I see, the biggest difference that I see in Western service compared to what is happening in the Middle East, and especially in Asia, is a sense of entitlement. This idea of doing things for a tip, for example, as opposed to doing it from your heart. As genuine care, as we say at the Ritz-Carlton, it's this really idea that I'm doing this because I want to do it, because I want to show you face. In China, there's this idea of showing face. This is coming back to respect, right? If you are my boss, I will give you face by doing my job well, meaning make you look good, out of respect. And for the Chinese and in Asian cultures, very much of, and again, this is my opinion, very much of what is done on a day-to-day basis with service, without the expectation of a tip, is because they want to show respect to you. And that detail, that attention to detail, it takes time to train when it comes to the international standards, but the motive to do it is very personal. And I think that's a beautiful part of the service industry that we see abroad, especially in China and Asia.
Now, your hotel must be doing all kinds of things right, because I noticed that it won a major award last year.
Yeah, yes, and I'm very fortunate to work with some of the best in the industry from all disciplines. For us and for me, the most rewarding part of being awarded a Forbes 5-star hotel for 2 years in a row, or leading in TripAdvisor and all of these things, for me this is secondary to what I feel the most pride about, is when I see our ladies and gentlemen, our people that had no idea what it was to deliver 5-star service and how to do it without a foreigner there. They're doing it on their own. You know, I can be here in Orlando today with 100% confidence that the team there gets it, that they're doing it, that they're passionate about it, and they're going to do it well and continue to do it well long after I leave to my next assignment or to my next role. And that gives me the most pride.
Have you had the opportunity in the course of your work to visit other properties in China and also
I'd love to do that.
An opportunity to travel as well?
Oh, you mean not work and travel? Okay. No, I love to do that. I've been doing this for years. Anytime I go to any city or anytime I have a chance, I love to go into a hotel. And I love to see it. My dream was always to live in a hotel. This is how it all started. And I used to drive my parents crazy because I always wanted to, let's go sit in the lobby, let's go to the restaurant at the hotel. And I loved it. So when I came to Middle East and Shanghai, the first thing that I did was I said, okay, what are the top 10 hotels in TripAdvisor? I'm going to go there. And I want to sit in the lobby and I want to feel if this is a space that I could live in. That was my basis for success, was could this hotel be a hotel that I would live in? Because of the service, because of the design, because of the ambiance, because of how I felt. And that's very much what I bring back to my hotel, is wherever I'm working, do my guests feel like they're at home, that they can live here? And that's the challenge that I pose to my team and to myself every day.
So what's an example of a place that you visited within China that maybe met your expectations in terms of the hotel and some other features?
Oh, you'd be asking me to talk about my competitors,
No,
John?
not necessarily.
No.
You don't have to mention any names.
I know, I won't mention names, but there's one in Hong Kong that I love very much for their spa. So I like different elements in the hotels. As a conglomerate, I think they're still missing some aspects that would not make it a full hotel that I would live in, but I love the spa in Hong Kong. I love the lobby in another property in Shanghai. I love the scent of certain properties. So I haven't yet found that place I would say I can really live here yet, anyways. In the Middle East, it was the same. I would go to all the hotels and I loved it because they all had such a unique character, such a unique feel, but they felt probably closest to home, I would say, than some of the properties still in China do. I think we try very hard in our property to give that impression, but it's a city hotel. You have a lot of the dynamic of a city, as in all of Shanghai, but then how do you maintain that consistency of home?
Talk to us about I think it's a friendly competition in a lot of ways between Shanghai and Hong Kong. What is it between the two cities that makes each one want to be the sort of premier Chinese city? And when you're in one and you've just been in the other, they say, oh, well, did you taste this? Did you have that? And if you did, well, we're going to give you something that's even better.
Yeah, well, they're so different.
And they're so different.
Yeah, Hong Kong are a collection of islands and very small, still a lot of people, but small. But you have such a strong presence of the West in Hong Kong. Shanghai is a city of almost 25, 26 million people. That's 3 times the size of Manhattan and spread out over a massive space. So again, it's a totally different experience just in the sense of numbers. Then you talk about communication. In Hong Kong, it's very easy for Americans or whomever to go to Hong Kong and communicate in English. And you feel like you can navigate. Now you still have your cultural differences that make Hong Kong distinct, but when you come to Shanghai, I feel like you really feel a city in China. And I highlight that Shanghai is not China by any means. So I think the comparison happens because it's the closest to what Hong Kong represents as an open, free city. But at the same time, it certainly is not China. It's not Beijing. It's not Shenzhen or Guangzhou. So it's its own entity. And I think that if you have a chance to experience both, you come away with different takeaways for sure from both cities. But for me, Shanghai is where I feel it has the richest layering of cultures and contact with cultures.
You've had experience in multiple countries. Is there a challenge in managing key hotel operations that is pretty much the same from country to country, or is it always different? It's always unique?
That's a very good question. In the Middle East, my biggest concern going was that I was a woman, to be honest. And that was the biggest concern of my parents, because that was my first international assignment. I was going by myself, and they said, what are you doing? You're going to the Middle East. And again, what I find before I go to any country is that those preconceived barriers or challenges really are just that. They're just conceptions that we've created. Because when I came to the Middle East, the first thing that I realized is that and this is luxury hotel operations, how do we teach people how to serve a luxury clientele when they come from Nepal, Bangladesh, the Philippines, and they live in absolute poverty? How can you expect them to know how to make a bed if they don't even have one in some cases? How do you expect them to be able to serve a customer and know language that would give an impression of luxury if they don't know? And so I find myself very much being a teacher on many levels. And I did that in Dubai and the same in Shanghai. It's about teaching. And if you come into these roles without that patience and without that ability to communicate and to show and to demonstrate, then for sure it becomes a challenge, because you'll never get the result that you're looking for. Your customers will never experience the Ritz-Carlton experience or the Marriott experience because you don't have the team around you to deliver it. So that's probably the biggest learning that I've had, and for sure one of the challenges that you have to overcome.
I know we're running short of time. If you had a piece of advice for someone who'd like to go into the same line of work that you're doing, what would that be?
Get out.
Get out?
Get out. No. Get out of the U.S. Get out of the U.S. Don't get out of our business. I love what I do for the many, 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 many ways that it gives value to my life and the people that I meet. But get out of the U.S. Get out, travel, apply for that job in the middle of nowhere, and do it, because it will totally change your life and change the course of your life as it has for mine.
Well, thank you for that piece of advice, and thank you for joining us today, Liz Espinosa.
Thank you for having me, John.
And thank you. For Global Perspectives, I'm John Bercia, and we'll see you next time.